Have you ever seen a plan that's basically at war with itself? Well, today we're diving into an analysis of the fictional 2025 U.S. national security strategy. And according to the source material, it's not just a plan, it's a whole bundle of contradictions. And this quote, it just nails the central problem. The whole point is, you want a strategy to be cohesive, to tell one clear story. But this one, well, it doesn't. It's pulling in a bunch of different directions at once, and that's what we're going to explore. So, before we get too deep into the weeds, what is a national security strategy, or NSS? Think of it as the foundational game plan for a country's foreign policy. This isn't just talk, it's a document that tells agencies like the State Department and the Pentagon what to do and what really matters to the administration. Okay, so here's what makes this analysis so interesting. Look, every strategy has some tension, right? But the argument here is that the 2025 NSS is different. It's not just complex, its core ideas are in a head-on collision with each other. The analysis really zeroes in on three massive contradictions. So let's walk through them one by one and see just how this strategy manages to fight with itself. All right, first up, we've got a real doozy. The classic battle between wanting to stay out of other countries' business while also having a policy that practically begs for you to get involved. And this just lays it out perfectly. On one side, the document says, hey, we lean towards non-interventionism. We're going to be restrained. But then, in the same breath, it says, we're going to enforce the Monroe Doctrine, a policy that has historically been all about U.S. intervention in the Western Hemisphere. So what's the big deal? Well, the source points out that if you're actually going to enforce the Monroe Doctrine, you're signing up to get tangled in the internal politics of other nations. And that's the perfect recipe for those long, messy conflicts, the forever wars, that this very same document says it wants to avoid. It really makes you wonder, right? How can a country's mean strategy document say we're pulling back from the world and also say we're planning to get more involved over here? It's a fundamental clash of vision. Okay, on to contradiction number 2. This one is all about alliances and the incredibly mixed messages being sent to America's partners about who actually matters. And this chart makes it painfully clear. The analysis shows a huge pivot in priorities. The Indo-Pacific and the Western Hemisphere, they get top billing. But Europe, its priority level takes a nosedive. We're not talking about a small adjustment here. This is a major strategic shift. And in the real world, what does this actually mean? It means the strategy is essentially telling our European allies, you guys need to step up and handle Russia on your own. The message is loud and clear. Russia is now Europe's problem to solve. And boom, there's the next contradiction. The document talks a big game about preserving U.S. soft power and keeping alliances strong. But as the analysis points out, by pulling back from European security, you're doing the one thing that's guaranteed to erode the trust that soft power is built on. And that brings us to our third and final contradiction. And this one is a straight-up clash between domestic politics and some very real, very practical national security needs. So the document dives right into the culture wars. It uses some really charged language, warning about the prospect of civilizational erasure in Europe, and it ties this directly to immigration. But, okay, let's put that ideology up against a cold, hard number. The source brings up Poland's fertility rate, 1.32. You need a rate of 2.1 just to keep your population stable. And this isn't just Poland. Almost every single NATO country is in the same boat. So why on earth does a fertility rate belong in a security discussion? Well, it's pretty simple. You can't have an army without people. The analysis makes it clear that these low birth rates are creating a huge national security problem, a demographic crisis where you literally run out of young people to fill the ranks. And this is where it all comes crashing together. The source lays out a pretty obvious solution to this problem: immigration. Immigrants are generally younger, they tend to have more kids, they fill jobs that need filling, and they bring new ideas. They are the practical answer to the demographic problem. So the strategy's ideology is in direct opposition to the solution for a security threat it should be trying to solve. So after all that, you have to ask, why does any of this matter? Well, a messy, contradictory strategy isn't just bad writing. It has serious, real-world consequences. And here's the bottom line. A lack of coherence is dangerous. When your core strategy says one thing and does another, it confuses your friends.
And, maybe more importantly, it creates massive openings for your adversaries to exploit that confusion.
So, just to recap the three big conflicts we've seen. You've got rhetoric versus action, saying you'll stay out while planning to jump in. You've got a strategy that undermines its own assets, talking up alliances while walking away from them. And you have an ideology that ignores the practical solution to a major demographic threat. And the source material has one last little clever jab. It points out that the document has a final contradiction built right into its formatting. The text on the page isn't aligned to the right margin, so in publishing terms, the entire document is literally unjustified. And that kind of leaves us with a much bigger question to chew on, doesn't it? In a world as complicated and as divided as ours, what does it really take for any country to build a national strategy that's actually clear, consistent, and makes sense?